Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
I like this podcast because we're titled Achieve Results Now, and we're literally talking about achievement
Yes, we are.
today. And
Yep.
what I want to talk to people about, have you ever noticed that with people that we talk to, most of the time it's not what we don't know that holds us back, right? It's not lack of information, it's what we don't do, right? It's the
Right.
lack of taking action. And I
Yeah.
think I think that goes across the board. So I think, today we're really getting into action steps, that'll help the rubber meet the road for people on achieving their goals.
It's we're talking about the gap of achievement versus non-achievement. And
Yeah.
like you said, oftentimes it's small. Um, it's small things you're not doing, small things that you don't realize. And most of us know what we need to do, but we often fail to do it or fail to do it in a timely manner. So it's really trying to shrink all of this, and really get to the point where we can make things happen. So that kind of leads into our first step, which
Yeah,
is shrinking the
absolutely.
starting line.
Yeah, shrinking the starting line. And I mean, I think like a lot of people struggle with this. Um, I heard a quote a while back that, when you're climbing a mountain, you don't look at the summit, you look at your boots.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really good quote because, I think one of the big problems is we get overwhelmed,
Yeah.
with the size of the thing that we have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's you need to look where you're going and know where you're going and make sure you're going in the right direction. So that we're not saying that you don't have big goals. However, if you focus solely on the big goal, running is a good metaphor for this because let's say you have to run 3 miles. Well, if you don't run often, 3 miles is a long ways. And instead of focusing on how far you have to run, I'm going to run to the next telephone pole, or I'm going to run to the next mailbox, or I'm going to run to the next house, and I'm going to do the best I can with that. And then you go to the next one and the next one. So that's a real life example of, I think, what I've done, what you've done running. You run down our park. There's different trees, different landmarks down the
Yeah.
park that you run to. Once I get there, now I'm going to go to the next one. Then all of a sudden you're finished with your run, and that really was just shrinking your starting line in a sense in your mind, playing games. And even though you're not stopping there, you're still tricking your mind somehow
Yeah.
by
And,
setting those little goals.
And like I like that you brought up the that park, right? Because I
Yeah.
remember like there's a park locally that when we run that it's a great place to run, and I always think about that. Go as far as you can see, right? Then you can go a little further.
Right.
You only have to go where the
Hmm.
headlights can illuminate.
Yeah.
Um, but sometimes, right? Like sometimes when I would run, like I couldn't even do that. Like that was even tough. I'm
Yeah.
looking at that
Yeah.
tree that I can see going, I'm not gonna make it. And sometimes you even take a shorter distance, like even less than that, and you say, well, if I can just make it to that, that flagpole 40 steps in front of me,
Hmm.
that's gonna help me get there. And I think, we've talked about the 2-minute rule before.
Yeah.
The 2-minute rule is really about committing to the smallest possible action.
Hmm.
And this is for people who, we talk to and say, well, geez, I just don't have time to work out.
Hmm.
And you say, okay, well, that's because in your head, a workout is an hour. Like, I
Right.
don't know where we got to this. Like, well, if I don't work out for an hour, it's not worth doing anything.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Or if I can't run a mile, it's not worth
Right.
running at all.
Right.
Um, but thinking about that small thing, do you have time to do 10 push-ups? Do you have time?
Yeah.
Somebody just I don't have a source for this, but somebody said that doing 10 squats an hour, like just standing up from your desk and doing 10
Hmm.
squats an hour, um, is the equivalent of, walking like 4,000 steps a day.
Hmm.
And I think things like that, just find little things you can do to start progress, and that'll help a lot.
And what it also does is create some momentum,
Hmm.
right? Get you started. So it stops the procrastination. And oftentimes what happens is you end up doing more. You end up keep going. So you commit to the 2-minute rule where, okay, I'm going to do this, whatever I have to get done for 2 minutes. Well, like I said, oftentimes you continue. You go for 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and then you realize that now you want to do it. So you didn't have the motivation before you started, but you had the discipline to start. You did it for 2 minutes, and then you decided to do it longer, and then all of a sudden it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And really, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's what it means by shrinking the starting line. It's not about changing your goals. It's about adding little steps in between the goal that you're going for.
Yeah, 100%. So the second step, we're talking about our environment and making the environment work for us. And this is something that I know James Clear is huge with this in
Yeah.
Atomic Habits.
Hmm.
If you haven't read Atomic Habits, make sure you check it out.
Hmm.
It's a great book.
Yep.
But your surroundings, can really either support you in your goals or can just make everything very difficult.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And so you need to set yourself up for success in your excuse me, in your environment. Um, are the things that are distracting to you, are the things that that are going to throw you off your goals, off what you're doing. Well, put those to the side, put them away, shut off your phone, turn off notifications, whatever it takes to set yourself up for a better environment. I like to have things clean so the night before, so when I come in, so I don't want my desk all messy. So when I leave before the end of the night, I tidy up my desk so that way when I sit back down, it's ready to go. I don't have to spend that 5 minutes to figure out where everything is and readjust. So that to me is how I'm setting myself up, um, and engineering my environment for success that day.
Yeah, 100%. And like I know I was somebody who like during my workday I would have a lot of tabs open on my
Yeah.
desktop.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times it was because, hey, there's, three or four tabs that I use throughout the day. So it was more efficient than opening them and closing them. Right.
Sure.
But then there would be other ones and it would be like, well, here's something I want to look at later. Here's something I want
Yep.
to, and I think a lot of people fall into that.
Hmm.
But what I realized was I was spending so much time, like clicking between and moving around,
Yep.
that it really that like that environment on my computer made, everything take a little bit longer and was more distracting.
Yeah.
A lot of times when I'm doing my cold calling, like I'll take my phone and put it in another room, because I
Hmm.
don't want that distraction there. But,
Right.
I think removing distractions is a big part of that, as far as setting your environment up. And then the other thing is, making sure that you have the things in your environment that you need, to move you to success.
Yeah. We talked about morning routines many podcasts ago, and one of the things we talked about is if you want to work out in the morning, is set yourself up the night before. So
Yeah.
lay everything out, lay your workout stuff, know where your sneakers are, because what can have to happen very easily is if you don't do that, let's say you haven't worn your sneakers in a few months because you haven't worked out in a few months. Do you know exactly where those sneakers are? I would say most people probably don't. So if you wait to the morning and then try to look for them and then you get frustrated, then you're 10 minutes late. Well, then you're like, well, I might as well just do this tomorrow. All right, that's a very realistic scenario that I think a lot of people go through, right?
Yeah.
And that you just didn't set yourself up the night before.
Do you have a dog? Are both shoes
Well,
where
that's the
the,
other thing too, right? If you have a dog that likes shoes, yeah, uh-huh.
but it's funny because I think we underestimate this, and especially when we're talking about morning things.
Yeah,
Um, time is like even if you get up early, time becomes tight.
yeah.
Like if you're a morning person and if you're somebody like us,
Hmm.
who you wake up early, that walk on your treadmill, from 5:30 to 6:05, if it goes to 5:40 to 6:15, like that can really off shift
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of things in your morning routine. So,
Hmm.
so trying to do your best to really prepare and make sure things are ready, it can really be a huge help in this.
Yeah, for sure. Now moving to the third one. So this is leveraging accountability and consequences. And to me, consequences always used to have a negative view. I always thought consequences means bad, but it doesn't. It does, but it
Hmm.
also means good. Consequences are results of what you're doing. So depends on. I mean, we all want to avoid pain and gain pleasure. So we're avoiding negative and going for the positive. However, what's the strongest with you right now? What do you
Yeah.
feel most motivated with now? So that's where you can set up your consequences properly, and create systems that there's if you don't do this, this happens, or if you do this, this
Yeah.
happens. Whichever one works better for you, the negative or the positive.
And I mean, when people talk about skin in the game, I mean, I think it's important because like every time you set a goal, if it's just you and the goal, and
Right.
then you miss a day, nobody really notices. It's
Yep.
fine, right? There's like you said, there's no consequence, and I don't think consequence has to be a negative, right? Like we don't have to, forget to cold call one day and then hit
Right.
ourselves with a ruler across
Right.
the
Right.
knuckles.
Right. Right.
That's
Right. Yeah.
like that's really a negative way to live. But one of the things that I do a lot is I'll cue in a friend with me, or I'll pull in somebody who has a similar goal or even a different goal,
Hmm.
like an accountability partner. And what an
Right.
accountability partner does, is it adds like the consequence of having an accountability partner is that you're going to feel like you let them down because you're supporting them in their goal too. So when you don't do your thing, you're giving them permission to
Right.
not do their thing. And it's nice because that's why like you can have two different goals. It doesn't have to be the same thing.
Yep.
But if you're supporting somebody else by trying to keep them accountable and they're doing the same for you,
Hmm.
the consequence is really you're going to feel like, man, I'm letting this person down.
Right.
And it's going to motivate you to stay on track a little bit more. So I think when it comes to leverage, I was going to say leverage. Um, I think an accountability partner is one of the best things you can do.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And because if you're the type of person that doesn't want to let people down, that's a great motivator.
Yeah.
It's going to get you up. Let's say you invite a friend and you work out together at a certain time, a couple days a week. For most people, they're going to, and especially if it's just the two of you, that, you know,
Yeah.
if you don't show
It,
up,
y-
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
And one of the things I love about martial arts is like at the dojo we have the the meanest accountability partner I can ever talk about. And and it's the smallest thing that most people don't look at, and it's our attendance cards.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
the attendance card is such a great,
Hmm.
like when it's full of, consistency and check marks, you feel great.
Yeah,
But when you look at your card and there's gaps and checks and it looks like
right,
it's speckled, that's your, that feeling you get, like that's the consequence. And I think,
right.
having those little systems in place, in your life,
Hmm.
um, if you don't want an accountability partner, but you want to grab, a calendar, throw it on the wall and just put that little hash mark when you do the thing.
Right.
I know Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about that in his movie, how when he first
Oh,
started
yeah.
working out, he would put the little hashes on the wall so he knew he
Yeah.
didn't miss a day. Um,
Hmm.
I think the visual of that can help hold you accountable as well.
Yeah, and if you haven't done any of this stuff, I think some people might think, "Oh, this is just a game," and I know it's a game, and I know it really doesn't matter in the end. I'm not going to die if I don't do this. Okay, I mean you can think that way, and that's fine. But I think if you play the game, if you do the accountability partner, or you do the hashes, or you do the calendar, or like any of these systems is yes, it's a game, and in the back of your head, it's a game, but play it, play
Yeah.
it full out. Let it go because that ultimately, what do you want to do? I mean, do you want to prove that you're right and it's a game, or do you want to get results with what you're doing? That's really what you have to do a
And,
shift in your mind.
and I want, because you said it, I want to throw this in. The people who say that you're not, like, I'm not going to die if I miss a day, right? And like,
Yeah.
listen, I get it, right? Like, it's like we are talking about, starting businesses and getting healthier and all those things.
Right.
Success, I think at the end of the day, really boils down to consistency.
Yeah.
Small things, I mean,
Yep.
compound effect, small things
Hmm.
over time, right? When we see marriages fall apart, right? It's not usually because, I mean, sometimes it's a cataclysmic event, but
Sure.
a lot of times it's just that neglect over time. When we
Hmm.
see business owners start to fail, it's because, they hit that level of success and then they said, well, I don't have to do it every day anymore. Like I
Right.
can slow down.
Hmm.
When we see people get sick, it's because they skip that one workout, then they skip the next workout.
Right.
So yes, it's a game. Yes, none of this is life or death, but those small. That's why I think and we're going to review, but going through like that, what's the least I can do today, just to
Right.
check the box, so I did
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Consistency is key, and I think having some kind of gamification of that will really help you,
Right.
in all areas of your life in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's review. So the first one was shrinking your starting line. So what that means is you can use the 2 minute rule that I'm going to do whatever your task is just for 2 minutes. So you commit to that, even though it might take you 45 minutes. And then what you'll find is that creates momentum. It creates just the idea of doing it, and sometimes it creates a habit of discipline to get things started.
Yeah, absolutely. Number two, engineer your environment. Get rid of some distractions. Make sure the treadmill's powered on the night before. Make sure your dog didn't move your shoes. But,
Mhm.
really a little bit of preparation in your environment can go a long way in your progress.
And the third one is leveraging accountability and consequences. So setting yourself up for success, but also using accountability partners, making sure that you're, I like, the term like you use, the gamify,
Mhm.
that'll definitely help you and motivate you to get things done and do it.
Yeah. And that wraps up this episode of the Achieve Results Now podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. Share this with somebody else who you want to help bridge that achievement gap. And we will see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.